So hello everyone, I'm Brian Jacob. I'm the CTO co-founder at Data.World. Every month, Data.World hosts a webinar focused on topics that are top of mind for data and analytics leaders like you. This month, we're discussing how we can accelerate data initiatives with cloud-native technologies, discussing ways that will help to unlock the potential of your organization through a modern culture of data. We're joined by three data experts, Jobin George from AWS, and Sunny Kara and Stephen Carter from Slalom, who, along with myself, will take a high-level look at cloud-native technologies and how to use them to reach a data-driven culture. Before we dive into the presentation, let me give some quick background about who we are and the problems we help solve. Data work today is often tedious, inefficient, and repetitive. You've probably asked yourself questions like, who owns this data and who's responsible for maintaining it? What is this data about and what methodology was used to collect it? When was this data collected and when was it last updated? Where is this data located and what is its original source? And why was the data collected and why was it used initially? How was the data set built and cleaned and how was the data collected? Organizations lose thousands of hours trying to figure out the answers to these questions, and it shouldn't be that way. You no longer need to make the compromise of adopting technologies that support either just your technical users or just your business users. Our modern approach to data work creates a seamless interface between these two worlds, where technical users can continue to run complex analysis, while business users find clean data and reusable analysis in a navigable catalog, easy to visualize and use to inform decision-making. We help connect, align, and get more value from the intelligence tools and processes powering your business. Our cloud-native platform creates a single clean view of your data from multiple sources so more people in the business can find, understand, and use data no matter where it lives or what format it's in. Built to include more of your business, Data.World makes data from anywhere meaningful to anyone, so your people can quickly and confidently answer business questions, capture their work, and add it all to your company's body of knowledge. And when your data strategy needs to adapt to emerging requirements like CCPA, knowing what data you have, where it lives, and how it's used goes a long way towards successful compliance. So how are most companies trying to solve this today? On one hand, you've got people in your company who have business questions. They understand meaning, they understand the business. And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got a bunch of data. It lives across lots of different systems, on-prem and some on the cloud. Most of our data is built for application-specific systems. We've got analytics platforms and lots of files that people are using for making decisions every day, but you may not have much visibility into those across the organization. So what do people do? They put a data warehouse on top of it. They try to get as much of this data into the data warehouse as possible. And then they roll out self-service BI and artificial intelligence, machine learning models that are pointed to that data. The problem here is that there's still a big gap between data and meaning. And as a result of that, the data is both inaccessible and meaningless to the people who need to use it to make business decisions. It's inaccessible because they can't find it very easily, and meaningless because even if they find it, they don't necessarily understand what it means. And so you've basically enabled people to make decisions faster, but with data that they do not understand. It's very hard to answer business questions with clarity, accuracy, and speed. So how do you make this happen? How do you fill that data meaning gap? That's what your data catalog is for. The data catalog is a metadata management solution that companies use to inventory and organize the data within their systems, wherever they live, in the cloud, on-prem. A data catalog supports all sorts of use cases from data access and discovery into governance and compliance. Enterprise data catalogs provide visibility, understanding, and access for all your data, clearly helping to answer all the business questions you may have with clarity, accuracy, and speed. A catalog helps achieve the maximum impact from your data. The catalog is not just a place to index all the information you have, it's the foundation of data empowerment, unifying your people, data, and analysis in a way that makes it easier to build a data-driven culture. Let's talk about how this works functionally. You've got lots of different types of data sources, not just databases, but files, analytic platforms, and the like. You're going to want to catalog all of your information assets. And so we can catalog not just the things that live in databases, but things like code, workbooks, documentation, terminology. All of your data and analysis assets should be part of your data catalog. Your data catalog will bridge the gap between end users and your data infrastructure. It does not matter if your assets live in the cloud, on-prem, or end users' computers. Ultimately, all of those data sources represent information that your users need to understand and access in order to make business decisions, and your data catalog should provide that understanding and access. So why Data.World's catalog? First, it's cloud native. Data.World's a fully managed SaaS service born in the cloud, and optimized for modern data architectures. It means we handle all the updates, migrations, and maintenance. Setup's fast and straightforward with a large and growing ecosystem of pre-built integration, including all the major cloud data warehouses. When time to value is critical, your team needs to solve real business problems, not fight with hard to manage data software. Second, for easy deployment and faster time to value. To tackle complex data governance, compliance challenges, you need to gain control of all your data assets wherever they live. And with hefty fines for non-compliance, you can't afford to wait on lengthy, costly software installs, upgrades, and patches. Data.World's SaaS data catalog is quick to deploy, easier to use, so you can inventory and understand all your data and metadata assets and act on a clear, informed data strategy. Traditional on-prem software can take months to provision, install, and deploy. It may require engineers to make on-site visits, which is a non-starter in the world we're living in right now, and maintenance and upgrades can force you to take the catalog completely offline. When your business relies on fast access to data analysis, any downtime is unacceptable. And finally, our data virtualization and federation technologies are unique within the data catalog space. Only Data.World allows people to access and query data from multiple sources, on-prem or in the cloud, without copying or moving data. It opens up a world of opportunity for analysts and data scientists to ask questions and solve complex problems using multiple sources, all from one platform. Data.World is the catalog for metadata and data management. Most catalogs focus on metadata management and governance. And as important as those capabilities are, they don't address the full scope of what an enterprise data catalog can and should do. Built on an enterprise knowledge graph and data virtualization platform, we deliver powerful search and discovery capabilities along with self-service analytics and collaboration so your entire workforce can be data enabled. Our catalog as a service platform makes it easy for IT and business users to get more from data. Data.World's partnered with leaders in the industry to better address the needs of the market. AWS is our partner for data infrastructure, and I'm excited to bring Jobin into our conversation as a panelist. Jobin, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about AWS?
Sure. Thank you, Brian. Could you please, yeah, thank you. All right, you can see my screen. All right, good morning, everyone. As Brian mentioned, I'm Jobin George. I'm a senior partner solutions architect specialized in data analytics, working with partners like Data.World to build solutions on AWS, which will help our mutual customers. For the next couple of minutes, I'm going to briefly talk about data lakes and analytics on AWS and how easily customers can turn their data into valuable insights. I'll introduce a few services which are around data analytics, and then showcase how the partnership between AWS and Data.World is today. We hear from companies all the time that they are always looking to extract more and more value from their data they already have, either acquired over the couple of years, maybe being generated from different data sources they have. And it's always growing, right? It's exponentially growing. The rate at which the data used to accumulate a few years ago may not be the case today. When it comes to sources, it's not the traditional sources which contributes to the data. We see data coming from IoT devices, sensors, any moving metal out there have a sensor attached to it, right? And it's continuously generating data. And there are companies which manage to capture that information and then turn that around and make it to the benefit of their businesses, but not everything can be done easily, right? How that can be achieved, that may not be an easy task to get done. So these things which I just described, like capturing and making analytics out of it, it needs to be securely done, as in a way that it needs to be collected securely as well as analyzed by a different set of people. At a different pace, which would be depending upon the departments you have. And matter of fact, data has turned out to be the core factor behind almost all the business decisions majority of the companies are making today, and it's very crucial to ensure you have the right analytical platform to do that effectively. Customers are more and more moving on to architectures like combining the data warehouses and data lakes in a way, it enables them to directly join the data between both worlds, right? If you look at the architecture here, you are clubbing or you're making your data lake as base of your data warehousing, your analytics use cases, as well as your machine learning. What does that say? You can interact, you can go across a platform and make sure that you only keep the right amount of data which is required for that particular use case warm in data warehouse, and the rest that can be available in the data lake for you to consume anytime. This helps the customers to analyze the data with a variety of tools we have, which will be suitable for different use cases they have as of today. And as you can see, you should be able to store the data in any format. It should be in a proprietary format, which is tied to a particular data warehousing technology. It should be open so that it is easy for the customers to explore it with multiple tools, irrespective whether it's machine learning tools or analytics tools you have, etc. Right? It should be able to you should be able to use within the tools which are within AWS stack as well as outside of it, a partner product. Or native tools like Kinesis or Athena or EMR, etc., to do ETL and maybe visualization for using Amazon QuickSight, etc. Also, you can use AWS Lake Formation to create a fast, secure data lake, and you can go from there as well. Analytics helps organizations quickly get the data to answers by providing a mature integrated analytics services on a reliable platform. We help customers to get answers very quickly by spending very less time in building and configuring, rather focusing on what business value they can get out of the data, irrespective of spending time for unnecessary things. AWS help you with an easy path to build a data lake, start running diverse analytics workload from the same platform, secure cloud storage, compatible, compliance ready, compute and network infrastructure that meets specific needs for each and every variety of workloads you have, fully integrated analytics stacks with a mature set of analytic tools, and best performance, of course, which should come with scalability as well as low cost. Moving on. What you're looking at right now is actually the different stacks you have within data analytics, right? Data visualization and engagement, as well as machine learning tools, analytical tools for data warehousing, big data processing, serverless, etc. Data and infrastructure management, data movement, for migration and streaming services, etc. In order to enable these stacks for customers, AWS have the broadest and deepest portfolio of databases and analytics services, than any other cloud provider, right? These are just separated in its functions, within the analytics stack. If you look at, it a little more closer, you can see that we have different services, starting from data visualization, QuickSight or Pinpoint or SageMaker, which are used for machine learning or data visualization, coming to analytics, Spark, EMR, Redshift, Athena, Elasticsearch, etc. And then we have Lake Formation, S3, and multiple other layers of S3 based on your use cases, AWS Glue for ETL, and then data movement, we have database migration service, Snowball, Snowmobile, Snowcone, Kinesis data streams, data files, etc. So AWS offers at least 10 data movement services, 13 analytical services, 18 machine learning and AI services, and 17 security governance and governance services as of today. We're going to take a look at a few of them, starting with the core of our data lake infrastructure, which is S3. S3 is the most popular data lake, and it's most preferred by the customers because of its unmatched durability, availability, and scalability. It comes with the best-in-class security, compliance, and audit capabilities, and the fastest performance at the lowest cost. Over the past 12 years, Amazon S3 has built a level of durability, availability, and scalability that is unmatched. It comes with 11 nines of durability, as you can see here, with the global replication capabilities, including spreading or replicating the data over multiple data centers and availability zones within automatically replicating irrespective of its storage class. Also, Amazon S3 has the most security capabilities, including API level access, CloudTrail capability embedded, and a lot of other capabilities like lowest cost. If you look at it like for the cost-effective storage classes, like it may be depending upon your use case whether you want to go to an archive like from S3 frequently accessed storage tied to Glacier, etc. The cost starts from like 0.025 dollar per gig if you want to like find a cost-effective solution for yourself. Jumping onto the ETL side of stacks, like serverless provisioning, AWS Glue is one of the key services we have. And if you look at the services which Glue provides, like it provides serverless ETL capabilities, as well as it help you with a crawler, which will help you and crawl the data and provide a catalog, automates effort of building and maintaining your ETL jobs. You don't have to write your own code in order to do that. Glue will do that on your behalf, as well as it recently introduced streaming capabilities, which are good enough they can integrate it with streaming services like MSK and Kinesis, as well as like the latest addition that the jobs comes with an SLA under 2 minutes, which is going to be very critical for a lot of customers if they want to spin up some jobs which are time sensitive. Taking a little bit more closer look at Glue and its benefits, AWS Glue is integrated across a wide range of AWS services, meaning less hassle for you to onboard. You can leverage the same AWS services you are using today, but Glue comes in between, which will make your ETL as well as like data analytics use cases a little bit more simpler when it comes to implementation. AWS Glue is serverless. Of course, there is no infrastructure to provision or manage. You don't have to ask your team to you don't have to build a administrator's team in order to manage your cluster. It automates all the efforts of building and maintaining and running ETL jobs. And it introduced a serverless streaming ETL, like I mentioned, which will help you to continuously ingest data or provide you the experience of streaming ETL, which will make everything perfect for your streaming use cases. Then let us take a look at Amazon EMR, which is actually one of the key services when it comes to analytics, right? It is actually the Hadoop and Spark distribution, which supports nearly 21 open source projects tested and integrated in our solution. So as you can see, the latest versions will be available within 30 days of the release into the open source community, and it comes with the lowest cost. EMR is it's priced simple and it is predictable. You pay per instance for the or even up to a single minute or even a second used with a minimum charge. You can launch a 10-node EMR cluster, such as with applications such as Spark, Hive, as little as 15 cents per hour. Because EMR has a native support for easy to spot, you can and reserved instances, your cost can even go down based on what type of instances you're using, up to like 50 to 80% of cost effectiveness. Then of course integration with S3. It can serve as a backend, like an S3 can serve as a backend with EMRFS, which will help you to keep your less consumed data, or as a storage tier, which will be like for saving data on S3, which is cost effective, and pull it back as you need when you run the jobs. And it's very easy to to control. In the console, you will be able to control it, and we have even like APIs which will help you to control the life cycle of your EMR cluster if you want to integrate it with and control it from outside. What you're looking at is actually the partnership information between Data.World and AWS. APN is like AWS Partner Network. Data.World is an APN startup partner, and they hold advanced technology status, which is actually the top tier partnership level you can achieve for an individual software vendor. They've been part of public sector partner program, and we share multiple joint customers. And Data.World is expected to be available via marketplace any day now. What you see here is actually the integrations with AWS services. Data.World have integrations with Amazon Redshift, RDS, Amazon Athena, Amazon S3, AWS Glue, Catalog, etc., etc. There is a lot more to talk about AWS Data Lake and Analytics. In respect of time, I'm going to have to stop here. Thank you all for your kind attention. Back to you, Brian.
Great. Thank you, Jobin. We're really pleased with our partnership with AWS. Looking forward to seeing our data catalog in the AWS marketplace very, very soon. I wanted to note that sometimes customers might need a higher level of expertise to address their issues over and above the platforms they're using, and that's where Slalom comes in. Sunny, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about Slalom?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Brian. Hello, everyone. My name is Sunny Kara, and I'm representing Slalom today with my colleague, Stephen Carter. To just give a little bit of background on Slalom, we're a modern consulting firm focused on strategy, business transformation, technology, and data and analytics services. I am a practice area lead in Slalom's organizational effectiveness practice, specializing in change management and adoption support for DNA initiatives, with a focus on cultural transformation and data literacy. We're really excited to partner with DataWorld and AWS for the webinar today to share our perspective around creating a modern culture of data. So as Brian and Jobin kind of walked through the importance and the foundation of infrastructure tools and capabilities, which are foundational to provide and enable access, transparency, and visibility into data, it's really important to be thinking about the cultural aspects to create a modern culture of data within your organization. Many companies are focusing on building technology platforms and tools to support data objectives. However, data tools and technologies are really nothing without people, and people make culture. So it's really important to be thinking about the people and cultural element as you embark on a data-driven journey. Because with that and creating a modern culture of data, you'll really be able to unlock the potential of your organization and truly create that culture. So I wanted to start by actually defining a modern culture of data, and what do we mean by that, and why is it important? You'll see the definition listed here, but when we're talking about a modern culture of data, we're really talking about an environment of experimentation, empowerment, curiosity, critical thinking, and collaboration among your employees. It really is, where you're thinking about how you can empower your employees and really drive that experimentation and curiosity and use of data. And as you think about achieving this, this environment, it really requires a shift in mindsets and in the way that you work and the way that you operate. It's thinking about how you're going from a siloed operating model to a more collaborative operating model, where everyone's kind of connecting on things, being more collaborative, where objectives and goals and data and insights are shared. And it's a shift from decision-making based on intuition to one where data is going to be used to actually drive that decision-making. So you are data-driven as you're making your decisions. And then it's a shift from being risk-averse to more experimental. So actually thinking about how you can leverage that data to experiment more, to try things, and allowing for a fail-fast type of culture. And when you're able to actually make this shift in culture, which is very important, it unlocks the potential for so much. There's room for innovation, a true focus on your customer with that 360-degree view, new opportunities, and also agility, where your organization is, being more adaptive and not reactive. And so next I wanted to talk about our framework itself, and the importance of it and some of the key elements there that allow you to enable and create a modern culture of data. We believe that a modern culture of data is enabled by 5 key elements, which you see depicted here. And what I'll do is kind of walk through each of these and provide a quick overview. Stephen is going to do a deeper dive on each of these and kind of tie it back to DataWorld and AWS, but I'll start by just providing an understanding and an overview of each of these. So what you'll notice in the center here is a bold vision, charting and creating a clear path. So this is foundational as you're starting your data journey and thinking about your data strategy. Really thinking about, do we have a unified vision and strategy? And how is data going to enable that vision? So the bold vision that you create should really be aligned to the overall organizational vision and enabled by a strategy and objectives and goals across all functions of your organization. And it's clearly defined by a business case to inform the investment required. What are those key performance indicators that you want to think about and have in place to monitor progress? And then also, as you're thinking about your bold vision, it's really important to be thinking about that leadership and executive sponsorship that's going to be required to kind of have the backing behind that bold vision and the support there. And then around the bold vision, you'll see kind of three key elements here: access and transparency, guardianship, and data literacy. These really enable your bold vision and kind of are centered around it. So to start with access and transparency, this is really the modern systems and scalable platforms that are going to enable the bold vision. The architecture, the infrastructure that should allow for easy access and use of your data and data in your organization. And this is really, some of the capabilities that we saw with Data World and AWS, and really establishing and building those integrated and flexible, scalable systems. And then guardianship is really about establishing trust in data, in your tools, in your processes, in your systems. And as we're thinking about guardianship, some of the components here are data governance, data management, thinking about data lineage, data quality. And guardianship should also include considerations for any ethical guidelines that you want to think about, any regulatory or compliance considerations, and also privacy or security considerations. And then at the bottom there, you see data literacy. And this is really thinking about the mindset and the skills that are needed to effectively make that shift in culture of the organization. So what is it that we need to upskill our employees on? Really thinking about data competency and understanding of how and when to use the data. Where is the data coming from, and the ability to think critically and challenge the data. And then lastly, what you see circled around our framework around the bold vision and tied to each of the other elements I discussed is ways of working. And this is, how do you really think about embedding each of these elements into your organization's operating model? And how do you upskill? How do you recruit new talent that you need as you embark on your data-driven journey? How do you think about behaviors that you want to incentivize? And then ultimately, how do you really think about embedding analytics capabilities into your day-to-day processes? So it really does become a way of working. It's a part of your business, and it's a part of the way you operate. So that's an overview of our framework and the key elements. And I'll pass it to Stephen next to do a deeper dive into each of these key focus areas.
Thanks, Sunny. Stephen Carter. I'm a practice area lead for our data analytics practice at Slalom here in the New York City office, and I help drive our AWS book of business. So as Sunny mentioned, I really want to dig in a little bit more to these 5 pillars and help understand how partners like Slalom, Data.World, and AWS can help you out on this journey to enabling a modern culture of data. So first up is a bold vision. You've got to have one. You have to know where it is that you want to go. You've got to have buy-in from your executive stakeholders to actually make sure that this is going to happen. And you got to have a set of KPIs to make sure that you're getting the value that you expect, and to also provide accountability to make sure that progress is being made. So this makes sense, right? You've got to have a strong direction, and you've got to have accountability to make sure that that progress is happening towards that direction. At Slalom, we help you understand what your current state is, what your bold vision is, and what the gap between the two is. What's the roadmap that I need to get from my current state to realizing my bold vision? And one of the ways that we do that is by utilizing technology partners like Data.World and AWS. So now that you're equipped with a bold vision, it's time to start implementing. Let's start off with access and transparency. Data can be a huge asset for your organization. We all know that, but it's absolutely useless until you get it in the hands of your most valuable asset, which is your people. And this is really Data.World's sweet spot, democratizing your data. It's a one-stop shop for all of your data needs. It's not just data sources, it's also reports and dashboards. One of the great things about Data.World is that it also integrates with natively with AWS services. So if you've got an Oracle SQL Server, MySQL, or Postgres database hosted on RDS, you can integrate that into Data.World. If Redshift is your data warehouse, you can find that in Data.World. If you're using S3 and Athena as part of your data lake architecture, again, you can find it in Data.World. Same with the Glue catalog. But as I mentioned, it's not just data sources. It's also got native integration with BI tools like Power BI and Tableau. So from your data sources to your reports, it's truly your one-stop shop for everything. And the cataloging and search feature make it really easy for your users to find what they need. So having all this data in one place is great, but it's also got to be trusted and it's got to be secure. That's what data guardianship is all about. Data is going to be absolutely useless if nobody trusts it, if they don't know where it came from, if they don't know the business logic that's happening behind the scenes. They're not going to trust this data and they're not going to use it. Data.World provides this trust by making metadata readily available, providing links to data dictionaries, showing data lineage, and providing info for stewards and verifiers so that users know that they can trust where this data came from. And once again, because it integrates with AWS, you're also getting best-in-class security services that sit behind these data sources that are integrated with Data.World. For example, Amazon Macie is a machine learning driven service that's going to help you identify and secure your PII and PHI sitting in S3. Amazon KSM and Cloud HSM are going to help you with encryption. And identity access management is going to help you make sure that you can control who's authorized to access various AWS resources. So with these two platforms together, you can get the security you need while also keeping that access and transparency that you want through Data.World. Moving on to data literacy. So you've got your bold vision, you've started to execute, you've got trustworthy data that's secured and in the hands of your users, but you got a problem. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to analyze it. You can't just throw technology at a problem. It's not just about having cool technology. You've got to make sure that your users have the right set of skills and an analytical mindset to allow them to use data to solve problems and make decisions. So at Slalom, we don't implement technology and leave. We utilize change management throughout this entire process to handle communications with your end users and also providing training so that not only do they know what to do, but they're excited to adopt this new platform. One of the big things that we also do is that we help establish analytics centers of excellence. This allows your users to innovate through sharing. It drives self-service. Your users are communicating with one another to share best practices and ideas. And what this does is it frees up your IT and BI teams because they're no longer responding to ad hoc requests for reports or data extracts or small formatting changes. You've got self-service enabled users who can do their own analytics. So if you've executed on these first four pillars, you've now got the data, it's secure, your users are excited and separable from the day-to-day operations of your company. You're becoming a truly data-driven organization. But AWS and Data.World social features in Data.World to collaborate in catalog. Services like Amazon QuickSight allow you to build dashboards and reports to share the results of analytics across your organization. And Amazon SageMaker allows you to incorporate machine learning directly into the operations of your business. Data is now in every single part of your organization. So this all sounds great, right? But how do I do this? The first thing you've got to do if you want to begin this journey is to understand where am I on the modern culture of data continuum. Based on our experience at Solemn, we help our clients identify themselves in one of these 4 categories. In uncharted, you know the data is important. You recognize it as an asset, but you haven't begun the journey to really formalize this modern culture of data. When you level up to discovered, you've started to plan. You've started to assess where you are, where you want to be. You've got a bold vision and you're starting to think about taking steps towards it. As you become established, data is an integral asset. It's starting to be embedded in decision-making and operations and day-to-day working of your company. Finally, if you're at embedded, you probably haven't called Slalom, because data-driven decision-making is deeply embedded into every part of your organization, and Slalom can help you get there. This last slide is just a great summary of everything that we talked about today around a modern culture of data. I'm not going to exhaust this slide because we just talked about it, but I think it's a great one to take a screenshot of to reference later. The one thing that I do want to call to your attention here is this quote from the Gartner Chief Data Officers Survey. Chief data officers say that culture change is the #1 inhibitor to progress. I just want to leave you by emphasizing that point, that you can't just have great technology. You've got to have this modern culture of data in your organization if you really want to see change. I hope you'll start this journey and unlock the power of data-driven innovation in your organization. Brian, back to you.
Excellent, great. So thanks, Sunny and Stephen, for your insights. In this webinar, we talked about how a cloud native and SaaS approach can help accelerate your data strategy. The main points we'd love for you all to take away from this are: take advantage of proven solutions and best practices to process and analyze diverse data sources easier and faster. Become more data-driven using the right solution for your team, and unlock your organization's potential through a modern culture of data. And I'm looking forward to now addressing some of the questions we received in the Q&A. Jenny, should I pass it over to you to mediate that? Moderate that?
Excellent. Yeah, but you know what? Let's keep this screen up while we're discussing through, because I think a lot of the questions that we're seeing come in can be reinforced or reiterated back to a lot of these key takeaways from everyone's content. Just to remind everyone, if you do want to submit a question to our panelists, please do use the Q&A button. I'm keeping an eye on both the chat and the Q&A, but we'll definitely be watching Q&A more closely. So to begin, we did get one question really early on that's looking at more how-to guidance. So what's something like this might look like in actual practice. So the exact setup that was shared was really around this attendee has a set of information that they're scraping daily and saving in CSV files. And so they're hoping to find out the easiest way to set up a pipeline for running this service automatically and connecting that data back to a tool like Power BI for visualization. Brian, why don't you start with that one, and then we'll ask our other panelists to chime in with additional perspectives if needed.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'll give a very data.world centric answer to this, just because it's what I know. But that's something that is really straightforward in our platform. It's something we think about. The way you would accomplish that in our platform would simply be use our APIs to push those CSVs as they're coming through your pipeline into data sets in the platform. That's where we would infer that schema, catalog it, make sense of it, make the data in it accessible with SQL. And then, you would plug into our Power BI connector, which would then basically be able to use that data set as a data source. So kind of exactly the flow you're talking about is something that's easily achieved with kind of our existing platform and APIs and integrations. And I'm actually going to text respond to your answer too, just because I have a couple links to relevant things in there. I mean, obviously there's a lot of different ways of doing this. There's an infinite number of ways of kind of accomplishing what you just talked about. So it's not that that's the only tech solve for it. I guess the thing I wanted to point out there is, like, to us, cataloging things like as CSVs means understand the schema, give it a URL, make it accessible as a web service, make it queryable with SQL, make it so you can connect it directly to those analytical data tools that you're using. Let's see if anyone else wants to chime in too.
Yeah, maybe I'll just jump in from an AWS perspective as well. And Jobin, if you have anything to add as well, I would welcome that. One thing that I've done is use Lambda functions for things like this. So if you need to have a scheduled web scraping job, you can write a Lambda function to create those CSVs that you're doing right now, and then drop those in S3, and then you can integrate into data.world or drop them into your data repository of choice. And then hook Power BI up to that as well, and share your Power BI dashboards through data.world.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, Lambda is an effective way to get that going, as well as, like, you can utilize AWS transfer services to push the data into S3, as well as, like, maybe even Redshift, and then you can use EC2 instances just to use as a Power BI desktop, and then you can query the data after connecting to the server and Redshift or S3, however you want to do that, and do that. In fact, I think I have found a blog somewhere which talks exactly about the flow, that not just the data bringing piece, but how that architecture could work when it comes to, like, accessing that from an AWS standpoint, connecting to Power BI from a data you have in the data lake or data warehouse. I can share the link as well in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. We have a couple more questions that are very much geared around, like, what this would look like in actuality. So another attendee is wondering how you would manage data schema changes with this scalable connected setup. Brian, it may make sense for you to start with that.
I can also start again, or I can let someone else take it. I mean, I think, just, similar to the answer I said before, I mean, I think, like, that's a real schema drift is a real problem, kind of understanding that change in schema over time. We think about this for, your schema, ultimately your data catalog is a data asset. The schema of your data assets is the data that goes into that data asset that is your catalog. And so kind of understanding the lineage, how that changes over time, versioning of that is really important. So, a common way this kind of manifests is thinking about lineage problems like impact analysis, right? If this data source's schema was to change, what downstream derived data sources or reports would be impacted? And so that's where that's where your data catalog comes in to help solve that problem, in terms of understanding this schema is derived via some transformation step from this schema, and therefore I need to understand what impact upstream can affect things downstream, so that I can control that upstream change and make sure it's not impacting downstream. And then I'll throw it over to my other panelists, because one of the ways you might represent that. The catalog is where you'd represent that lineage to be able to do that impact analysis, but actually executing those transforms is where you get into things like AWS Glue and Lambdas, as was brought up, and I'll kind of the other experts throw their 2 cents in on that.
Right. Yeah, I agree completely to that point, Brian. So if you look at AWS Glue, it have the crawler which will help you to capture the data which lands into S3 or your data lake simply, and then you can schedule it on a time-to-time basis and go and get schema definitions again to check if that changed, and if that changed, update the catalog, and then data.world will be able to pull that out, and you will be able to go from a lineage perspective and put on. Build a flow out of it, just to make sure that you adapt. If you are expecting that schema changes pretty often, you can go up to scheduling the crawler to run and recrawl the data. Make sure the schema is updated, and then pass it on to data.world from the Glue catalog, and then you can have a flow established to get the use case done if you expect the schema to change drastically.
Awesome, thank you both. And actually, Slalom team, we've got a couple of questions that are really best suited for you to start the conversation, I think, which separate from the technology, you highlighted a lot of the challenges that kind of come with the cultural element, the change management that really makes implementing technology of this sort and data practices more effective, more valuable, more impactful for a company over time. We've got a couple of folks that are wondering how you would go about that process to upskill your employees and shift that mindset to be more data-driven overall.
Yeah,
Yep.
so oh,
Stephen, you want to go first?
yeah, sure. So one of the things that we talk about in enabling a modern culture of data is really a whole pillar of data literacy. So again, you can't just have really cool technology and then nobody available to use it. It's really important that you have the training, the change management, and the communication to make sure that your end users are really bought into this. And then when whatever you're deploying goes live, they're ready beforehand to do it. So we always make sure that we have training curriculum to make sure that those users are up to speed before we do this deployment. Sunny, I think you could probably speak to this in a little more detail.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think very closely tied to, the framework that we went through. I think starting with just that vision where you're getting alignment, buy-in, sponsorship with leaders, and then really taking that messaging and starting to engage users. One thing that we found very important and, very critical in the success of, these type of initiatives and programs is the engagement of users, so that you are co-creating with them. They're part of the journey, they're part of the process, and any capabilities, infrastructure, tools that you're setting up for them, they're helping you design and co-create that. So that engagement element is very important. I think Stephen touched on the education piece, which is critical, of course, is upskilling, learning, thinking about the different personas, who's going to leverage the data and how are they going to leverage them, and then really thinking about, how do you make that a part of the way that they work. And then ultimately you want to get to that empowerment stage where, users are asking for more data or want to create things. They're getting more into self-service, and really their day-to-day operations are dependent on data and leveraging that data. And that's where you really get into kind of building that culture of data, the modern culture of data.
That makes a lot of sense from both of you. Thank you. Let's see, Brian or Jobin, do y'all want to add more to this? Or what's your perspective as you've looked at how some of your customers and partners have approached this need to really pull in more of the organization and make sure that those skills, those expectations, that context is put into place?
Sure, I'm happy to take a quick pass at it. I mean, I think very much agree with everything that Stephen and Sunny said, and it's a thing that we talk about all the time with our customers. Like no technology platform, ours or anyone else's, is going to come in and be a magic wand that solves all these problems, right? This is fundamentally an organizational, cultural thing, and you need to get buy-in from a broad set of users to really kind of enact a data-driven culture. Tools can help. Tools can be, tools are critical as a part of that as well. And having the right tool chain that helps you democratize and broaden access to data while still retaining all of the necessary governance and controls is a critical piece of that. But you also kind of have to lean in and make the investment in how do you socialize these concepts, and how do you really get folks to understand that using data to make decisions is the goal, and that folks of all different technical backgrounds can do that in various ways. It's about getting them the tools, the access, and the understanding they need to actually incorporate that data as part of their job function.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I'm curious. to hear from some of y'all a little bit more about maybe some of the business outcomes that you feel cloud technologies could really enable for businesses. We've already touched on a few of them, particularly as we've spoken about things like automation and efficiency, consistency. What are some other benefits and outcomes that a business could expect with this?
I can add a a tiny portion of how AWS is going to help and how we partner with our ISVs, ISVs out there to make that easy for the customers. If you look at businesses, right, if they are trying to go with if it's not a SaaS solution, if it's a self-managed solution, to do any kind of analysis on the data or mountains of data you have, you might have to build an army within your organization, within your company, in order to keep that going in a way that make sure that your infrastructure is up and running, make sure that your software is installed properly, configured, patches, installation starting with newer versions, a lot of housekeeping things you will have to do on a day-to-day basis. But if you look at the services which AWS provides, you don't have to flux your business, your team members to manage the infrastructure, manage the servers, take care of the software suite, as well as the services to be up and running all the time. You don't have to have a dedicated army of DevOps or admins to keep it running all the time. Instead, just use the services and make sure that you're using a serverless data lake, as well as maybe a fully managed data warehouse, and then keep the businesses to keep your key employees to focus on the business outcome rather than spending time on managing their platform. So if you take a closer look at it, how integrating multiple of these things may not be as easy. A particular single service may not be able to get you all the leverage you would need for your use case, and that's when our partners like Data.World comes into the picture, which will make your lives a lot easier. And then putting it all together, Slalom is going to be there to help you with starting from day one. Until you go, on 100 miles per hour, they'll be there to, hold your hands and make sure that, your business, kicks off and it goes live and ensures that, you are where you expect it to be. So when you put all these things together, during all these, different steps, your team can focus on better things of how to make an impact rather than spending time to manage all these services and procuring the servers and doing patches and things like that. You can let them focus on the key business outcomes they're looking for, and then then get to the outcome what they need, rather than spending a lot of time for unnecessary things. Just one thought, but I would let Brian and Sunny and Stephen to answer or give more insights to that. But thank you.
Yeah, maybe a couple things just really quickly as far as use cases where you can see a lot of value quickly. I think one of the big ones is just modernizing your databases and moving from some of the legacy on-prem databases where you've got expensive licenses and infrastructure, and moving those over to an open source platform like Postgres RDS or MySQL RDS or Amazon Aurora. You still have to manage the database itself, but you don't have to worry about the infrastructure, and then you're not paying those licenses if you choose one of those open source RDS instances. The other one I'll talk about as well is just serverless data architecture. You can do some really amazing things with Glue and DynamoDB and Lambda functions where your developers can just function on coding and building and not have to worry about acquiring infrastructure or having system administrators handle patch management. We see lots of value coming out of really modern serverless data architecture. So that's a cool thing to look into.
Great. I'll just throw one additional thought in there. And I love everything, Jobin and Stephen just said, and, obviously very aligned with kind of that modern architecture. It's a lot of, it's a lot of how we think about building our technology and, looking at our clients, suggest those things as well. Just like, tying back to the, how to think about framing the benefits a little bit. One thing that we talk a lot about is, part of the mind shift is in, starting to think about your data as assets that you want to find a way to leverage, still govern, still control access, but find a way to get leverage and value out of, as opposed to kind of traditional data governance types of approaches that are they're viewed more as your data is viewed more as a liability, that the protection is the main goal and achieving value out of it is an afterthought. It just kind of it's kind of rounding out everything here. I think there's leveraging modern technology and leveraging data with modern technology also implies a little bit of that cultural mind shift around what fundamentally is the role your data plays, and where, how can you achieve more value from it. And that kind of unlocks the organizational momentum to then go look at better technological approaches to achieving that value.
Awesome. These are all wonderful closing thoughts, and being mindful of time. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for today. Thank you to all of our panelists for sharing your content with us today and your thoughts here at the end. This conversation has been really great, especially as we've closed out on some of these questions. As a reminder to our attendees, we'll be sharing a link to this recording very soon, within the next day or so, so keep an eye on your inbox for that. Or you can just hop straight over to our website using the link I posted in the chat earlier on. With that, panelists, any closing thoughts as we say goodbye and head off on our days?
Just thanks for moderating it, Jenny. This was great, really interesting conversation from my point of view, and thanks to the rest of you for joining.
Thank you, Brian.
Coming, everybody.
Thank you.